All right, so we're diving into Spanish today.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and not just any Spanish, like the kind of words you'd need to find your way around a city,
Oh, cool.
like a local.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're going deep into these notes from a video. It's a Spanish lesson, like made for people learning the language.
Neat.
Yeah. And it's not just vocab, though. It also gives you a glimpse of this place, Huelva,
Well,
in Spain.
okay.
And it's got some seriously interesting spots, like landscapes that look like they belong on Mars, and even connections to Christopher Columbus.
Wow, that's really interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a really cool way to learn vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not just like memorizing words, you're actually
Oh.
seeing them in context.
Right.
And Huelva, why Huelva?
Yeah.
I think it's a great choice because it's got such a rich history and unique geography.
Totally. Okay, so to make all this vocabulary easier to remember, let's unpack it thematically.
Okay.
So first up, words you'd need if you were back in school.
Okay.
So we've got colegio, instituto, and universidad, which pretty much covers the whole education system, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the video also points out those informal terms that you'd hear Spaniards using in everyday conversation,
Oh, right.
like col for colegio and uni for universidad.
Got it.
So it's those little nuances that can really make your Spanish sound more natural.
It's like the difference between I'm going to the library
Yeah.
and I'm heading to the lib.
Ex-
Way more casual.
yeah.
So imagine you need to run some errands in a Spanish-speaking city. Your notes mention supermercado, mercado, and tienda.
Yeah.
I know tienda means store,
Uh-huh.
but what's the difference between a supermercado and a mercado?
Oh, good question.
And like what kind of atmosphere would you find in each?
So a supermercado is like your big chain supermarket.
Okay.
Think Walmart or Target.
Got it.
All about convenience
Yeah,
and just having a huge selection.
makes sense.
But a mercado,
Yeah.
it's a totally different experience. It's more like a farmer's market,
Yeah.
often with like local vendors selling fresh produce, meats, cheeses.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a much more social and vibrant place
Yeah.
where people catch up with their neighbors and really experience the local flavors.
So mercado is the spot to hit if you want to get a taste of like authentic Spanish life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's shift gears to leisure activities.
Okay.
We've got gimnasio for gym, or they just say gym sometimes,
Oh, yeah.
which shows how English words are making their way into Spanish.
Uh-huh.
We've also got teatro for theater, parque for park, and peluqueria, that's a mouthful for hairdresser.
Yeah, it is a bit of a tongue twister.
Is there an easier way to say that?
Well, the video actually mentions that you can just say pelu.
Pelu.
Much easier to remember.
Way easier.
And it's interesting what you said about the English influence.
Yeah.
It just reminds us that language is constantly evolving, borrowing words, adapting to the times.
Right.
Although some people would argue that it's important to preserve the purity of the Spanish language.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. It makes you wonder like where the line is between incorporating new terms and maintaining a language's unique identity.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, all this talk about Spanish cities is making me hungry.
Oh, yeah, me too.
So your notes mention fruteria for a fruit shop, panaderia for bakery. I can almost smell those fresh croissants. And, of course, bar and restaurante.
Ah, yes, the bar.
Yeah,
A cornerstone of Spanish culture.
for sure.
It's not just a place to grab a drink.
Right.
It's a social hub,
Yeah.
where people gather with friends, enjoy tapas, and just soak up that lively atmosphere.
I'm already picturing myself sitting at a bar enjoying some delicious tapas and practicing my Spanish.
I love that image.
Yeah, speaking of Spain, let's take a virtual trip to Huelva, that province your video is showcasing.
Okay.
You mentioned landscapes that look like Mars earlier.
I did.
What exactly were you referring to?
Right, so that would be the Minas de Río Tinto.
Miras de Río Tinto.
It's an area with such unusual geology that it's actually being studied by NASA. Wow. But it's not just about the landscape. The mines are steeped in history, particularly when it comes to the origins of soccer in Spain.
Wait, seriously, soccer in Spain originated in a place that looks like Mars.
It did. It really did.
This deep dive is full of surprises.
It is, isn't it?
So tell me more about this. How did soccer come to Spain from a place that looks like Mars?
Okay, so English miners working in the Rio Tinto mines in the late 1800s,
Mm-hmm.
they introduced the sport to the locals.
Oh, wow.
And that's why the Recreativo de Huelva is considered the oldest soccer club in Spain.
Wow.
It's like a direct link to those English miners and their love of the game.
So much history packed into one place.
I know, it's amazing.
And it even connects to some of our vocabulary. The video mentioned museo, so I'm guessing there's a museum about the mines.
Absolutely. Museo is a great word to know, especially when exploring a historically rich place like Huelva.
This is making me want to book a trip to Huelva right now. Is there anything else in Huelva that showcases this, like, blend of history and culture?
Well, there's one place that really stands out, the Ermita del Rocío.
Ermita del Rocío.
It's a small chapel,
Okay.
but it's the destination for a massive annual pilgrimage called the Romería del Rocío.
Oh, wow.
People travel from all over Spain, some even on horseback, to pay homage to the Virgin of El Rocío.
Wow. What kind of atmosphere would you experience during this pilgrimage?
Imagine thousands of people coming together, singing, dancing, sharing food, and celebrating their faith.
That sounds amazing.
It's truly a remarkable display of devotion and cultural tradition, something you wouldn't want to miss if you were in Huelva at the right time of year.
Okay, so we've covered schools, shops, leisure activities, and even touched on some fascinating spots in Huelva.
Yeah, we have.
But I have a feeling we've only scratched the surface
Oh, definitely.
of what it takes to navigate a Spanish-speaking city.
For sure.
So what other essential vocabulary words should we explore?
You're right. There's so much more to discover. So let's dive into some words that will help you get around town, find what you need, and truly immerse yourself in the Spanish urban experience.
Okay, so we're ready to hit the streets of our virtual Spanish city.
Let's go.
What words do we need to, like, get around?
Well, you'll definitely need to know your transportation options.
Okay.
Your notes mention aeropuerto for airport, which is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Then there's metro for subway, essential for navigating big cities.
And I'm guessing estación de tren and estación de autobuses are important for, like, those who prefer to travel by train or bus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing those will get you far. And speaking of getting around,
Yeah.
the video also points out coche for car and gasolinera for gas station, just in case you're feeling adventurous and want to rent a car and explore the Spanish countryside.
Ooh, that sounds amazing.
Right.
Imagine cruising along those scenic Spanish roads,
Yeah.
stopping at a gasolinera to fuel up, and just soaking in the beauty of it all. But before we get too carried away with our road trip fantasy, let's think about some practicalities. What if we need to get some cash?
Ah, yes. The essentials.
Yeah.
For that, you'd want to find a banco,
Bunko.
which is bank.
Okay.
And speaking of money, the video uses this fun, informal word for cash,
Oh.
dinerito.
Dinerito.
It's like saying little money, but in a playful way.
I love that.
Right.
Dinerito. Definitely adding that one to my vocabulary list.
It's a good one.
Okay, so we've got our transportation covered. We know where to get cash. Now, let's talk about entertainment.
Okay.
What does a typical Spanish city offer?
Well, if you're a movie buff, you'll be happy to know that cine is the word for movie theater.
Yeah.
And for those who like to dance the night away, there's discoteca,
Okay.
or disco for short.
Discoteca. I can already hear the music and feel the energy.
Can you?
But what if we're in the mood for something a bit more low-key, something that really captures the essence of Spanish life?
In that case, you can't go wrong with a visit to a plaza. It's like a central square,
Yeah.
gathering place where people come to relax, chat, and have a coffee, or just watch the world go by. It's a
Yeah.
great way to soak up the atmosphere and just get a feel for the local culture.
That sounds lovely.
It is.
A plaza definitely seems like the heart of a Spanish city.
I think so.
But what if you want to experience something a little more festive, a little more lively?
Ah, you're talking about a recinto ferial.
Recinto ferial.
It's like a dedicated area where they hold festivals and fairs, often with live music, dancing food stalls, and all sorts of entertainment.
That sounds incredible.
Right.
It's like stepping into a world of celebration and cultural immersion. And speaking of cultural immersion,
Yeah.
what about those iconic landmarks that every Spanish city seems to have?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the ones that transport you back in time and tell a story just by standing there.
You're thinking of Castillo for castle and cathedral for cathedral, right?
Exactly.
Those grand structures
Yeah.
that just seem to hold centuries of history within their walls.
Yeah. I can just imagine exploring a castillo or marveling at the intricate architecture of a cathedral.
I know. And speaking of cathedral,
Yeah.
the video actually shares a funny expression using that word.
Oh.
It's tengo un dolor de cabeza como una catedral. Literally translated, it means I have a headache as big as a cathedral.
So it's like saying you have a massive headache.
Exactly.
I love those kinds of expressions. They really add color to the language and give you a glimpse into the culture.
Yeah, they do.
Now, earlier we talked about puerto for port,
Right?
but your video focuses on a specific one in Huelva,
Yes.
the Muelle de la Carabela.
Yes.
Why is this one so special?
Well, it's not just any pier. The Muelle de la Carabela actually houses replicas of the ships Christopher Columbus used to sail the Americas, the Niña Pinta and Santa Maria.
Wow.
It's a pretty amazing sight to see, and a reminder of Huelva's connection to that historic voyage.
Wow, so you can actually stand on replicas of those iconic ships.
You-
That's incredible. And since we're on the topic of Columbus, your notes also mention a Monumento a Colón in Huelva.
Yes, and it's considered one of the most impressive monuments dedicated to Columbus in all of Spain.
Wow.
It's interesting to see how this one province, Huelva, has so many connections to such significant historical events.
It really shows how language and place are so intertwined, you can't learn one without learning about the other. It's like each new word unlocks a new layer of understanding.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, we've talked about castles, cathedrals, and even replicas of Columbus's ships, but I have a feeling there's something else in Huelva that captures the imagination, something that speaks to its natural beauty.
You're absolutely right. We can't forget about the Playa de Nueva Umbria, also known as La Flecha del Rompido.
Okay.
It's a protected area with pristine beaches, fine yellow sand, and according to the video, the most spectacular sunsets.
All right, that settles it. Playa de Nueva Umbria is officially going on my travel bucket list. The name alone sounds breathtaking.
It's a beautiful place.
So we've covered transportation, practical places, entertainment, historical landmarks, and even a stunning beach. It feels like we've explored so much of what a Spanish city has to offer.
It does, doesn't it?
But is there anything else we need to cover before we're ready to truly navigate a Spanish-speaking city like locals?
You're right. We've covered a lot of ground, but there are a few more key locations we need to discuss before you're truly ready to hit the streets of a Spanish city with confidence.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the bustling streets of our virtual Spanish city, explored its vibrant culture, and even taken a detour to that captivating province of Huelva.
Yeah, it's been quite a trip.
But what other essential stops are we missing on this, vocabulary tour?
Well, let's think about some practical places you might need to visit. Like, for instance, what if you need to mail a postcard back home
Oh, right.
to show off all the amazing Spanish you're learning?
Yeah, where would we go for that?
You'd head to the Oficina de Correos.
Oficina de Correos.
That's the post office in Spanish.
Okay, Oficina de Correos, got it. And every city needs a place where its citizens can connect with their local government, right?
Exactly.
So where would we go in a Spanish city?
In a Spanish city, that would be the Ayuntamiento,
Ayuntamiento.
which is the city hall or town hall
Okay.
where the mayor and other officials work.
So Oficina de Correos for important mailings and Ayuntamiento for any city-related business. What about health services?
Oh, right.
I'm sure there's a word for hospital in Spanish.
You're absolutely right. It's hospital.
Okay.
But remember, the H is silent in Spanish, so it's pronounced hospital.
Good to know. I'll try to remember that silent H if I ever need medical attention in a Spanish-speaking city. You know, we've covered so many key places from schools and shops to transportation and landmarks.
We have, haven't we?
But something tells me there's one very important place we haven't mentioned yet, a place that's probably at the top of many people's lists when they visit Spain.
I think I know what you're getting at. You can't talk about Spanish city life without mentioning the bar.
The bar.
And I'm not just talking about a place to grab a drink.
Yeah,
In Spain, the bar is like a social institution.
right.
A place where people meet friends, share tapas, discuss the day's events, and truly experience the pulse of Spanish culture.
A classic for a reason.
Absolutely.
It's fascinating how certain words transcend their literal meanings and become symbols of a culture's way of life.
I agree.
Speaking of bar, your video mentions a new kind of bar, one spelled with a V that's related to soccer.
Right.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's VAR, which stands for Video Assistant Referee.
VAR.
It's become a common term in soccer, so even if you're not a fan, it's good to know.
Okay.
It's just a reminder that language is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Incorporating new words and concepts as the world changes.
Right.
Just don't confuse it with the bar where you order drinks and tapas.
Definitely a good distinction to make. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Spanish city vocabulary, I feel like we've not only learned a lot of new words, but also gained a deeper understanding of Spanish culture and its unique way of life. It's amazing how each word, each place reveals a new layer of insight.
I completely agree. It's been a fascinating journey exploring these words, and I think it highlights something important about language learning.
What's that?
It's not just about memorization, it's about expanding your perspective,
Yeah.
connecting with different cultures, and seeing the world through a new lens.
That's a wonderful takeaway. So, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring Spanish, keep discovering new places, and who knows, maybe we'll all meet at a bar in Spain someday, sharing stories and practicing our newly acquired vocabulary and our new